Have you seen these images? Russia is mobilizing on Finland's border. They have bases across the region. Here in Severomorsk is the headquarters of their northern fleet, and nearby bases host nuclear submarines. They're building a new headquarters here, and at this nearby base, satellite images show that they've built enough accommodation to house 2,000 troops. This base lies just 60 kilometers or 35 miles from the Finnish border. But there's so much more. Throughout Finland's history, an invasion from Russia has been the big threat, and Finland is now perhaps more than any other country prepared to respond. Their border stretches over 1,300 kilometers or 800 miles and constitutes over half of Russia's border with NATO. In total, they have 9 land border crossings, which in 2023 were all closed until further notice. Finland is preparing to build a fence near these crossings, and they just left a treaty that is paving the way to lining this border with anti-personnel landmines. Is it as bad as it seems? And what does history teach us? This is the Russia-Finland border with Hindsight.
The months-long build-up of Russian troops on the border with Ukraine has turned now into an invasion.
The big turning point in this story was when Russia invaded Ukraine. This led Finland and later Sweden to join NATO, and Russia's border with NATO to more than double in size. This was truly a historic moment.
We welcome Finland as the newest member of our alliance.
I want to fully understand what we know and how we know this. The geopolitical landscape of the region is quickly changing, and given that Finnish defense spending will increase from 2.4% to 5% by 2032, it will likely further change. I'll walk you through the current situation, but first, let's do a quick walkthrough of this border throughout history. During World War II, Finland and the Soviet Union fought several wars, and as a result, Finland lost large swaths of land. All these lands near Leningrad were ceded to the Soviet Union, as well as in the north, where Finland lost access to the Arctic Sea. The Paris peace treaties finalized Finland's post-war borders in 1947, and the following year, Finland's neutrality was formalized under significant Soviet influence. Finland had fought alongside the Nazis, and they feared a full occupation from the Soviet Union, just like in Eastern Europe. They made a compromise to accept Soviet influence in return for their independence. They remained neutral during the Cold War, while having Soviet influence and while deeply distrusting their neighbors. This border became one of the heaviest militarized borders on the entire continent. These land border crossings were partially or entirely closed, and this prompted some 420,000 Finns who lived in territory that was ceded to Russia to now settle in Finland. Border towns on the Soviet side were off-limits to outsiders, and the Soviets established a 5 to 25 kilometer exclusion zone where civilian access was forbidden. The border was mostly militarized on the side of the Soviet Union, and their goal was to keep Russians from defecting to the West. Soviet border guards, agents from the KGB, kept a close watch. This became a hard border. But the moment that the Soviet Union collapsed, everything changed.
Eastern Europe is free. The Soviet Union itself is no more.
Finland gained an opportunity to choose a new political alliance. In a referendum, 57% of people voted yes to joining the EU. They aligned with the West, and as the relationship between Russia and the West was improving, this border was reopening. So in the past, this border was only a border between Russians and Finns. Finland served as a buffer between Russia and NATO, and that's the way that Russia liked it. If we look at the data, we can see that their defense spending has substantially increased, with peaks in 2023 and 2024. But if we look at these rates per capita, we see that they have been quite stable, with a long-term average of 1.6%. But they aim to increase their defense spending to 5% by 2032. But not just that, in this new security landscape, this border is the only buffer between Russia and NATO. This channel has grown from a side project to a small business, and that means more paperwork and management. But that's where Odoo comes in. They are an all-in-one management software. They offer a wide variety of apps to help you manage your business, like to sign documents or to keep track of timesheets, but you can even build your own website. Let's try it out. You simply provide some basic data, you choose a color palette, and you add the pages that you want. Then you select one of the many themes that they have. I personally like this one. And that's where the fun starts. Their website builder is intuitive and easy to use. No technical skills are required. You can drag and drop blocks, and then you use the sidebar to customize them. You can add animations, and they even have built-in AI tools to help you generate text. Try Odoo today for free by using my link in the pinned comment or description, and you will get one app for free. If you choose the website app, you also get unlimited hosting and support, and a free custom domain for 1 year. Try it today. All Finnish men above 18 years must serve in the military. Every year, around 25,000 conscripts are trained, and about 80% of them complete their service. This gives Finland amongst the highest rates of conscription in the world. Of Finland's population of 5.6 million people, they have 900,000 reservists. That's 16% of the population. But Finland maintained its position to stay out of NATO for many years. Until Ukraine.
Ukraine is now a nation at war.
Within weeks after Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Finland applied to join NATO. And after the necessary formalities, they became part of the alliance. The border of Russia with NATO used to run just around this exclave and the Baltics. But with this move, their NATO border gained 1,300 kilometers or 830 miles and more than doubled in size. And now, the border looked very different than during the Cold War. It had become normal for people to commute across the border. Many border towns depended on this free movement, like this municipality. It often comes up online as a hidden gem in Finland, a must-see tourist destination. They have a population of 73,000 and earn $300 million per year from tourism and cross-border trade. But Russian officials now labeled Finland as a frontline threat. Russia relocated tactical missile systems closer to Finland's border, but they have dirtier tricks in their book.
163 migrants riding bicycles attempted to seek asylum.
Finland is blaming Russia for a rise in asylum seekers passing through its border crossing.
They allegedly helped at least 1,300 migrants from countries like Syria and Somalia to reach via Russia the border with Finland, to here ask for asylum. We have seen this kind of hybrid warfare before. Russia knows that migration is a sensitive topic in the West, and they exploit this as a weakness. By sending hundreds of people to the border, they aim to stir up unrest and create division in Finland, as it forces them to balance their security concerns with human rights obligations. But Finland responded by closing all land border crossings, which effectively halted most irregular crossings, and they approved plans to build a fence along parts of its Russian border.
Finland start building a 200-kilometer fence along a section of its 1,300-kilometer long border with Russia.
Some call this a new Iron Curtain in Europe.
Such a fence helps protect Finland from hybrid attacks, but it greatly affects border towns. This municipality lost millions, and before the closure, 13 million people cross this border every single year. But Finland has good reason to be concerned. Russia, on their side of the border, has dozens of military installations, of which these are the main ones. We know about much of Russia's military expansion through a series of articles that was published by a Finnish news company. They analyzed satellite imagery and made before and afters. This is one of the articles. You can see how Russians are clearing forests to build new storage sites, and they're stockpiling equipment. These are images from this base in the high north, and next to it, just 50 kilometers from the border with Finland, they reopened this decommissioned base to house a new Arctic brigade. The article shares several examples that show how Russia is expanding its presence and improving its logistical capabilities. And while this is now primarily used for the war in Ukraine, this infrastructure is built for permanent use. Some analysts argue that it's part of a broader military strategy. Russia's nuclear forces and Northern Fleet are all based on the Murmansk Peninsula. Their only land access runs parallel to Finland's border. The journalist who published this article spoke to a military analyst who said that, in Russia's view, this is a risk. He also explains that in the south, near St. Petersburg, preparations are made to increase the number of soldiers from 30,000 to nearly 100,000. And he adds that fewer than 100 main battle tanks were deployed near Finland before the war in Ukraine began, and that this will multiply several times over. Here's the bottom line. Both sides are escalating, and both sides say that they are responding to each other's escalation. And this is the latest.
Finland is accelerating preparation for all potential conflicts.
Finland is raising the upper age limit for reservists. This would add 125,000 troops to its wartime strength.
This country is prepared, its society as a whole and military are well trained.
They completed several sections of this border fence, and they are considering using anti-personnel landmines to line this border with explosives. With Finland's military spending set to increase to 5% of its GDP, this will likely escalate further. From the standpoint of Finland, they are responding to Russia's expanding military presence near its border and the perceived increased unpredictability of their neighbor. And Russia's perspective is that they lost a buffer state. Without Finland as part of NATO, Russia had a buffer. But now they joined the alliance and Russia's NATO border substantially increased. Russia's military goal is to create a new buffer zone that stretches from the Arctic to southern Europe, and Russia's military expansion near Finland is a part of this. This border runs along a narrow land bridge that from a military perspective is a potential chokehold. Russia has key military facilities in the Arctic, and they only have land access through this stretch of land. While in the south, Finland's border is just 150 kilometers or 90 miles from St. Petersburg, Russia's second largest city. Both countries are preparing for the worst. Don't stop here. I selected 2 more videos for you to consider for your next watch.